To be great at something takes passion and persistence. But the key to consistency and longevity requires balance. We have partnered with Saracens to deconstruct their process of performing at the highest level.
You can find out more about the 5 pillars at cityindex.com/GBR.
Hello, Dream Team. Oh, bit of me dies inside whenever I have to say this. It's me again, James Haskell, your favourite presenter. Your second favourite presenter, Alex, is back in the driving seat. Some of you voted for him never to come back, but he is, as this was a pre-recorded episode. It's the penultimate one of this season. Now, we recorded it a few weeks ago. But with the news this week about Ryan Jones's early onset dementia diagnosis and Ed Slater's diagnosis with motor neurons disease, we didn't want our support for both of them to go unsaid. So from me, Alex and Tinds and everybody at GB&R, and quite frankly, everyone in the rugby world, we just want to say we're here, we're sending you both all our best wishes, and we want you to know we're here to help wherever we can. We're sending you lots of love and no doubt all the support from our listeners too. But here we are, the main event. I'll hand back over to Payno now. This episode was a lot of fun to record. I hope you enjoy it as much as we did. Something a bit different.
Hello, Dream Team. I hope you're all very well. It is good to have you back with us once again on another episode of The Good, the Bad and the Rugby in partnership with City Index, the leading provider of spread betting, CFD and FX trading. Hask and the Lord are here. We excited?
Oh, very excited.
I think we're going to get into it this week, aren't we?
Yeah, it's good. Let's go.
Let's go. 3, 2, 1. We are going to let you in on a little trade secret just before we begin, because we're actually recording this in June, despite putting it out this week. And that is because it's the only time that these guys are over here. And we didn't want to miss the opportunity to speak to some superstars from across the pond. You will know that throughout the course of this season, we've been talking about rugby and where it fits into the global sporting calendar and the spectrum. And we have therefore got a pod with a bit of a difference today, because we often talk about the sport that we're comparing it with today as we look across to America, looking for an example of a sport that has got it all. So we are honoured to be joined this week by not one, but 2 NFL stars, the Washington Commanders defensive end. Not easy to say that after a couple, is it?
It's not, no.
It trips off the tongue. Efe Obada, it's lovely to have you with us. We've also got the New York Giants punter, Jamie Gillan, a.k.a. the Scottish Hammer. Is that a self-appointed nickname?
Great
or is that one that you've
Please tell me you didn't
Where does that come
give
from?
it to yourself.
How many birds have got the Scottish Hammer?
Yeah, I was going to say, which side does the nickname come from?
What's so
off
funny
field
is-
or on field?
Before we started recording, the guy's like, what's this kind of pod like? With one comment, you have basically let everybody know what it is that we're here to discuss. Do you want to clear up? He's taking a big sip of water.
There you go.
Would you like to clear up where the Scottish Hammer comes from?
So my coach in high school just happened to see me kick. Well, I saw that the kicker wasn't doing very well, and I went up to him and said, "Hey, I can kick a football, I can kick a rugby ball." So he goes, "Okay." So he watched me kick it, and he's like this big kind of redneck kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Make the ball do this. Make it do that." He looks at the punter and goes, "That you're fucking fired." Everybody was like, "What the heck is going on?" And so I played 5 games of high school football for him. He made this highlight tape and he kept going, "I'm calling you Scottish Hammer. I'm calling you Scottish Hammer." I'm like, okay, cool, bro. Put it to bed, went to college for 4 years. Then a guy called Tom Pelissero brought it up on the NFL Network, and then it just stuck. I'm like, okay, well, I have to rock with it now. So everywhere I go, Scottish Hammer, Scottish Hammer, Scottish Hammer. The Americans love it, so.
I love it.
What a decent nickname.
I know.
That is a good nickname.
My nicknames you can't even say, and
No.
they're all insults.
We'll bleep those out. Have you got a nickname, Efe? Anything we should know about? We're working on it.
No, I wish. Yeah, that's. I'm jealous, actually.
That's a strong start. One thing we will say, though, is you broke the ice very nicely just by commenting on...
Yeah, Efe's bowled in, like, how 6'5"?
6'6". don't
6
do
foot,
that.
sorry, 6'6". He's rolled in, smells unbelievable.
Thank you.
Right? But then he's wearing grey tracksuit bottoms. And if I wasn't shamed before, I've been fully man-shamed. Because any man who's wearing grey tracksuit bottoms knows that everyone can see what he's operating with. I mean, I don't know what, the Hackney Hammer?
Hackney Hammer.
Brixton Hammer.
Brixton Hammer. I love
Hey,
that.
it works. It works.
I'm sure there'll be some who nod in approval. What are you guys over doing? So, I mean, it's lovely to chat, and we have been spending a lot of time comparing rugby with, the NFL that is the phenomenon. But what brings you back to these shores?
So right now I'm just working out some logistics in terms of visa issues.
Oh, right.
And then also just spending some time with family, seeing them just before the break and just kind of recharging, and then I'm back out there again because once everything starts, you just don't have any time.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it nice to be back? Do you get to enjoy, I don't know, what Scotch eggs, pork pies, the things that you don't necessarily get on the other side of the water?
I'm British raised, but I am African.
Right.
So, yeah.
So what are the things you miss over there that you haven't necessarily got from back here?
Well, as of recently, because I've moved to Washington, they have Nando's, and that was normally be the only thing that I miss.
Right.
But apart from that, just family, friends. I'll tell you what I don't miss, this 20-mile-an-hour thing that you guys got going on.
It's not good.
It's terrible. I know guys in the league that can run faster than that. So
But you don't have narrow streets in America. That's
Exactly,
the problem.
Do you guys, just in terms of the time off stuff, because I'm not an NFL aficionado, but I love it. We reference it a lot on the podcast, talking about kind of the entertainment model, the business model, the stats kind of stuff that we'd love to see kind of in rugby, or certainly we would. But obviously in the off season, a lot of times when you follow the program Hard Knocks or watch any of that stuff, there's always people going to like facilities and doing stuff. Do you actually genuinely get some time off, or is your expectation for both of you to be back on into some form before you go into pre-season?
do you want to answer that? Or?
It depends. It's all based upon how you feel. Personally, I like to hit the ground running a little bit, so I'll take some time off, but I still, at the back of my head, want to take care of business a bit. So I still punt, work out, kind of mind my P's and Q's a little bit whilst having fun. But then there's some guys that I've met that don't give a shit and will do nothing the whole off season and come out and run 20 plus mile per hour on the pitch, and like it's nothing. So,
Wow.
What about you, Efe? What's your vibe?
It like I said, it depends. Like there's a lot of logistics and planning because you're not in your country. So for me, it's a lot of back and forth, visa issues, and then but also staying in shape. And when I'm here, there's not really a lot of facilities to kind of facilitate what I need. So I'm always in a rush to try and get back out there so that I can train. But I'm home.
Are we saying there isn't a place with weights big enough? Is that what we're
That's exactly
essentially what
what
we're
I'm
saying
saying.
here? Yeah.
Right
Do
now,
you put on Tim quite? Do both of you, like, if you were to let your hair down, would you put on weight quite easily? Do you have to worry about those kind of things, both of you, or not? Like, no one wants to see a big.
The Scottish Hammer, when he lets his hair down, becomes Thor, doesn't he? He just walks around with that, literally.
no, I'm just naturally buff. So
I know what you mean. I know.
you get
Just play it down, though. Play it down.
Mate, it's a hard life being absolutely shredded 24 hours a day.
Testosterone around this table is really tangible. Ain't none of it coming from me.
Beta male in the corner. Only one of us around this table has had a fight and won it, though. So.
There we go. Everyone
you
needs
go.
some estrogen wherever it is that they're going life.
What's the story behind that?
The fight,
Yeah.
it's a long one, and frankly, it's very, very
No,
boring.
but you love telling it. You tell
Yeah,
it.
we'll come back to that another time. I'll send you the video. You'll enjoy it. It's only
No,
30
that's
seconds long. What's really interesting, though, I didn't realise that you guys actually knew each other before today. Because, I mean, what is the history between the two of you?
just met at Buffalo.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And is that a sort of Brits abroad type bonding thing, or is it just, are non-American players in the NFL still seen as like fish out of water, or is that long gone?
I think that's long gone. I think we're changed in that perspective, and alongside with some of the initiatives that are coming along, like a lot of people are just changing that, and that's why NFL is trying to expand and come to the UK, go to Germany, Mexico, and stuff like that. So even Africa as well. So there's talent everywhere. Initially, when I first started in 2015, I was seen as this, just another body, didn't know what he was doing. But now, after making some plays, making some headways, and obviously everything that's coming along, we're taking it serious.
So good.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about both of you your roots into where you find yourselves now? Because it's still seen as, it's an incredibly hard path to walk. What is the percentage of people who try out for it, who make it? We're talking 0 point something, isn't it?
0.01, because the whole of America, it's America's sport, that and baseball. So we're competing with millions of football players that have grown up their whole life dreaming of pulling on a Giants jersey, a Panthers jersey, a Buffalo Bills jersey. So a lot of it's like right place, right time.
Yeah.
But for us, it's different because you had a totally different path than I did. I just kick a ball. So I don't need to know any plays or anything like that, right? So just catch it and kick it.
You've got to be pretty good at kicking it because there are a lot of people out there trying to get that spot. So how did you end up going from Inverness to where you are now?
Just my dad's job, to be honest. He was stationed in Kinloss, and I was living up in Inverness. Went to boarding school in Edinburgh, and then he got stationed down in London, in High Wycombe.
What's he do?
He's in the Royal Air Force.
Okay.
And he wasn't really enjoying being in the headquarters. He was used to flying all the time. Then he's was just at a desk job, and so I suggested to him, "Why don't you get posted somewhere?" And he called me, said, "We're going to America." Oh, great! So we headed out to Southern Maryland, and man, that was a culture shock. Very rednecky. Come out, just everything like you see in the movies. You got these huge F-250s, big bearded guys like howdy, coming out the corner. It was hot as hell, and there was no rugby down there. My dad said, "Oh, show up to rugby practice," and they didn't play tackle until 18. Like, what the fuck? Wow. And then I ended up playing up in DC for a French exchange school, and I just wasn't getting any like good rugby really, and I was really having to travel for it. And that's how I played 5 games of high school football, then went to historical black college.
How did that come about? I mean, this is a hell of a story.
Oh my God. Bro. I remember you talking about it.
How do you end up in a scenario like that?
So I originally had signed paperwork to go to a different school, and my coach was like, they make a big deal about National Signing Day. Coach is going, sign it. I'm like, why? It's not just sign it so you commit to the school. Well, what's going to happen if I don't sign it? They're just not going to want me anymore. He goes, no, just fucking sign it. Then I didn't. We faxed it to them, and I guess they didn't look it over or whatever. I'm out partying with my pals, and I get this phone call, and he's like, "Hey, this is the University of Arkansas would like that, offer you a full scholarship." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, what division?" He goes, D1. All right, I'm coming. He goes, you don't have any other questions about the school? Like, no, I'm coming. We're doing it. Woke up in the morning. I'm like, oh shit, I really did this, didn't I? I called my coach and figured out 4 days later I was on a plane down in Arkansas. I didn't even know that HBCU was historical black colleges. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Right. So I showed up.
Can I just ask, the moment you walk in, is it like you would imagine in the films where everybody stops and puts their knife and fork down and looks at you?
Yeah.
This is not so when you say historical black college, you mean it's just a historical black college for black people?
Yeah.
And you're the only white, small Scottish guy, not small, but you know what I mean, guy coming like...
You're close, though. You're close. I don't think you can get more further away from Scotland, from the north of Scotland.
With a Scottish tan, like it's almost
pasty.
see-through.
Yeah. Pasty white.
Wow.
No, don't worry, he walked in there in grey joggers.
And they really laughed at me.
So you walk in on day one, and everyone, I mean, how does it unfold from there?
It was like out of the movies a little bit because, remember the Titans and all those kind of movies. I'm walking down and even just and it's one of my good friends. He ended up being one of my best mates on the team, Keyshawn. His dad was the assistant special teams coach, and he picked me up and had a big gold chain on, big gold earrings, and I go up for the handshake like, "Hey, all right," and he's like this awkward kind of
the rock paper scissors, which has become very much a thing in COVID.
Right, and then we drove down. I just looking around, and Pine Bluff is not the best place ever, and it basically went our version of Poundland. We have Dollar General and Dollar Trees over there. Just driving through Pine Bluff, it's boarded up house, more boarded up houses, Dollar General, Dollar Tree. This at the time I was there, and then there's a school. I'm thinking, oh fuck, what have I got myself into? And same thing. I walked in. But Keyshawn is like looking at me. He's like, "Do you know what this is, bro?" I'm like, football team. He's like, "You know what HBCU is?" I was like, "No." He goes, "I mean, you're going to be the little motherfucker here." We were laughing and joking, and, it was making funny. But then there was me. We had another punter there at the time, Nolan. And at the time, that was the only white folk we had on the team.
Wow.
Did you? Oh, you must have obviously performed and earned the respect, a bit like a reverse of like Remember the Titans kind of vibe, like.
Well, yeah, just went in there, just being normal, So I made great friends. I was excited. I mean, that facility was not particularly good, but it was miles better than anything you got in Scotland. So
in Scotland, boarded up house, boarded up house. Wait, but the thing is, they wouldn't
Book fast.
If you walked in, Keyshawn said hello to you, you just walk in and get headbutted in Scotland. That's it.
a Glasgow kiss, right?
Yeah. Amazing. And so, very quickly, how do you go from that to where you are now? I mean, that's just going through the gears and up the system, is it?
Well, I chose to go that route. I really miss rugby. Rugby, I ate, slept, and bred rugby. I wanted to play for Scotland. Like that was my whole ambition, going to boarding school for that. And
No fairness, you could probably still do that.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Scotland are good right now.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, anyone. Scottish.
But he, 4 years, I go, you know what? If I'm going to sacrifice 4 years of rugby, I got to do this thing. Because the only thing that was on my mind is that the NFL pays, right? And
When you say pays,
Really good.
yeah,
That's all we want to know. That's all we want to know. Like, we've been waiting. We'll get round the houses, but then we'll come back going, listen,
Show us
not
your
to win figures
paycheck.
here, but we're like, carry on, but we'll come back to
Yeah.
this because we all are very excited.
So yeah, I thought, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. I can potentially play in the NFL and play hopefully a long time, and the family are going to be good, So, and then my journey, it was a ball ache for 4 years though. It was gritting it out, working really hard, one goal, and then how I met my agent was a whole different weird story. And then I basically went out, and because the school I went to was so overlooked, and we were terrible for 4 years. We got pumped by everybody. We won 4 games in 4 years.
wow.
It was kind of rubbish for that.
Does that
aspect.
make the fact that you've made it all the more remarkable?
I would definitely say from the school that I come from, and when I go to other locker rooms and people say, "Where did you go?" and I say, "I went to Arkansas Pine Bluff." You went where? It's kind of people can't believe that I came from Arkansas Pine Bluff because of the SWAC and the historical black colleges and stuff. They think they look at me like I'm crazy, and everybody starts laughing. We're joking about stuff, and then I had a punt workout and did really well, and then teams offered me, and I got the opportunity at Cleveland with training camp, and the rest is history.
I love that in the fact that if you were American and you'd have gone down that same path, you probably wouldn't have gone to Pine Bluff. But
No.
because you didn't know, you weren't care, you just wanted to play sport, you wanted to do what you love doing, you were like, fuck it, I'll do it. Hey, it's worked out. Maybe it's a lesson out there for people. Always just chase the dream, don't think about the...
Wasn't there something about you popping 4 footballs as well?
Yeah, I haven't done it since, and maybe I fucked up how I pumped up the balls. I don't know. I bought 3 Wilson the Dukes to get prepared for the kicking for the not the combine, but like a pro day, and then I had a kicking combine, and you kind of have to nail these things to even get people to look at you. And I bought these 3 balls, and it gets kind of cold actually in Arkansas around January times. I pumped them up, kicking them. And then, poof, what the fuck? And then I brought it back and it just started deflating. And then the next day, the other one deflated. And then the other one deflated.
Tom Brady hadn't been anywhere near them.
He doesn't know much, but he knows enough.
Reference.
Yeah, very cultural. And was that a thing? I mean,
I might have just been a fluke. Maybe I didn't, because I didn't know there was a whole way you're supposed to prep the balls too. With they have like a horse brush. So if you saw fresh out the packet ball compared to a quarterback ball or a kicking ball, they're totally different.
yeah.
So it's probably because I didn't work in the ball before I
Or
just
it's
started
because of
kicking
the
it.
hammer.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe the balls hadn't prepared for the fucking hammer.
That's the myth. That's the myth.
Myth, yeah.
You sell that dream.
Unbelievable. Efe, to come to you, and I know your story is quite different. Are you happy to share a bit of your journey with us? Because
Yeah,
it's
of course.
remarkable in the extreme.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
Tell us sort of pre any sort of American football dream, sort of what the early chapters were like.
I think academically, I wanted to be an architect.
Yep.
But everybody here that grows up here wants to play football, soccer. I say
Did you play any football over here?
a little bit? Yes, in school, but
What position were you at 6'6" and
6'6". I started off as a striker, but worked my way back, not by choice, to a goalkeeper.
Until you were the goal.
It's a well-trodden path, that one, I think. Yeah.
I can play, coach. Just get a goal.
Get a goal.
Yeah.
So no, I was a centre back because of just aggression and size, and then also goalkeeper just because of the height and skill, but nothing professional. Just mates, go five-a-side, maybe a power league here and there.
Yeah.
But then that's about it, really. Just had other issues, so I just wanted to focus on that.
Got you.
Yeah.
But you had a journey to get here as well.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about that? Is
Of course.
is that something you're comfortable talking about?
Yeah. So I was born in Nigeria, like I said, and then just didn't have the options over there. Obviously, certain things happened in my family life that I wasn't able to kind of stay in Nigeria myself and my sister. So we, as you do, you migrate to another country, Western country to better your life. It's a story that all Africans kind of are accustomed to.
Was this with your family at the time? Or
This
was
was-
it on your own?
This was on my own with my sister. So we went from Nigeria to Holland to meet my mum, but my mum had already left to kind of obviously further her education and her life, to try and get a better life. I was back in Nigeria with my dad at the time, and then we went to Holland. That was the first time I actually met my mum. And then we stayed there for a few years. Weren't able to see what she, single mum, 2 kids. One of them's got learning difficulties, and it's just tough on her. And obviously, as I'm older now, I can understand the situation she was in. So she thought it would be a better option to come to an English-speaking country, and then obviously further our lives that way. She facilitated for someone to bring us to the UK. The person did that. Nothing was above board. Obviously, it was just a different time right now, and obviously the options that we had. Came to the UK. The plan was for us to come first, then she'd come afterwards. Then the person that brought us over, same day, took money and just kind of abandoned us in the street. And it was just, and obviously my mum wasn't able to come over. And it just wasn't, I think it's just harder for adults to kind of make that transition. We went into foster care and just bounced from home to home. This is just a short version of it, but bounced from home to home until I turned 18, and then I went into shared accommodation. But like I said, I wasn't above board. I was an immigrant. Didn't have any right to public funds. Couldn't work. Couldn't further my education to go to college or university in here. So I just went straight into the workforce. Obviously, as an immigrant, it's a lot of cash in hand jobs. I've worked in Odeon. Obviously, that's through a friend. I've worked at a bingo.
Clickety click.
I bet you saw some signs at the bingo.
What did you do in a bingo? I'm not imagining you were putting the balls out.
No, I wasn't. They tried, and they wanted me to kind of be on the floor and handing out books, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I just stayed at the front.
This is one of the most intense stories we've ever had on this podcast. Absolutely shattered by bingo. Yeah.
But it's interesting because it happens to way more people than anyone cares
does.
to notice. I told you about this. It's a podcast called Floodlight, which my cousin-in-law does, and it's about sort of ultimately you were trafficked out of,
Right.
And it's never apparently this is the stat, never in history has modern day slavery been as bad as it is now. It's 40 million people are getting trafficked around the world.
Yeah.
Astonishing.
And you think we live a life where you just can't think that's possible, but it's done through the same way of kids at 10 years old, where they think they're going to see their parents or they're offered something, and then
Right.
people take money, and then that's it. I'm just amazed that you've got to where you've got to.
No, for sure.
How so then? Because as you say, you have no rights, you have no bank accounts. How did you then get from calling bingo to actually sort of was there one person who helped you, or was there numerous people that helped you that facilitated a sort of journey?
So I got into some trouble, and then when I got into trouble, that's when I kind of gained my size, and then when one of my old friends that I went to college with, we met up, and he was huge. So I was like, oh, hold on, did you get in trouble too?
Sometimes I fancy getting in trouble just to get some real good training. Do you know what I mean?
And a break from clothes.
Yeah. Break from the business, get some real hard training, and a lot of chest and arms.
No legs.
No legs.
And then he was like, no, I play American football. So then, and he played for the Warriors. And he's like, why don't you come down? And I was like, all right, let's do that. And then I came down, didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then he's like, just go get the ball. And then I did that. I hit someone and he hit the ground. And I thought I did something wrong. I was trying to help him out. But then everybody else's reaction was like, ah, and I was like, oh, okay.
You want me to do that again? I can do this. I can do this.
I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then one of the coaches there, Aidan Dirty, he's like a big part of my story and my life as well. He's furthering his career in American football, wanting to be a coach. At the time, he was doing an internship in Dallas. And he was someone that kind of saw the potential in me and took time out of his life and trained me. And when Dallas came to London to play in Wembley, as they do now, he facilitated an unofficial workout. So I was literally there. He said, come. I was there and I had no training gear. Took off my shorts. I was in my boxes. They was like, run a 40, hit
Intimidate.
We'll sign him. Shit, you did it naked, bro.
He's like, and they're like, all right, the advice he gave me was like, no matter what you do, just do it as fast and as physical as you can. Hit some bags, did run a 40, did everything. Then the following year they finished and then they gave me a call when they was building up the roster saying, all right, we'll give you a shot. I was working in a warehouse in Welwyn Garden, Grace Foods at the time.
I'm sorry, I've just got to jump in. You're working in a warehouse,
yes,
and you get a call saying,
saying that it was at 4 a.m, I think, because obviously the time difference and whatever. But then it was like, oh, we're Dallas Cowboys. We want to sign you to a 3-year, it's I think it was 1.3 million contract at the time, and I was like, yeah, whatever. This is it, bro.
Do you have your bucket in the background?
But then obviously Aidan told me it was real, and then eventually I got to a point where I could quit my job, went straight into training. Like I said, I was an immigrant, so I didn't even have a passport. I couldn't even fly. But then obviously they sorted it all out and all that stuff, so it was really cool. And then
that is incredible.
That is the most remarkable.
I mean,
story
it's mad, isn't it? Just in terms of your mentality as well. Obviously, alluded to a bit of the trouble stuff. Were you kind of, obviously sometimes when people have these situations and kind of taken and kind of used like you were, you can sometimes become quite angry. Are you quite, were you quite an aggressive guy when you played? Yeah, so
very.
Did you find it quite a nice release?
It was. Like I said, I hit someone and everybody cheered for me. So, and
yeah, that was a great life.
Yeah, and it was a really good outlet for me. It was, I was just frustrated, like, because, everybody else that I grew up with had this not conventional, but they just didn't have as much obstacles in terms of, that I did. I couldn't apply for a job. I applied for McDonald's and they rejected me, just because I didn't have papers, and there was certain jobs like William Hill that I applied for, and William Hill has one of the most fucking hardest application forms ever. You have to do like a maths test and all that stuff, and at the time they were paying really good, and I got rejected. I couldn't go to uni. And everybody was just kind of progressing, and I just felt stuck, and that's kind of why I turned into a certain lifestyle. But it was a really good outlet for me, and then I just at the time.
And how do you feel like now? Obviously, having made it, do you still find that nice balance? Because one of the things I found in retiring from rugby, missing that opportunity to be physical or to be dedicated and stuff, I think is a real kind of, do you know what I mean? I find that quite...
Basically, he's just angry.
Please find something to get it out before we get to his levels.
Yeah.
It's a different... I'm pulling from a different motivation, I should say. Yeah, it's more about the ability to provide, obviously create more opportunities, show people that it's possible. And but and just kind of prove a lot of people wrong, and also prove a lot of people right that believed in me.
Is that constantly in your mindset? Is that
not?
Do you use it? Do you still use it now and go think, because you know where you've been and what it was like that you've got to make every moment count.
When I'm over there, it's easy to get lost in being over there, but I'm a competitor. I don't like to lose. But when I come back, and and I'm in the same areas that I grew up, and seeing a younger version of myself and stuff like that, and being reminded of certain areas and certain things that in certain situations, I can walk in a certain house and I'll be like, oh, well, I used to live there, or I used to work there, or, and that kind of pisses me off, and that kind of adds that fuel. So I like coming back, and
refreshing
refresh
the
and
anger.
then just the anger.
You
and then
use it
go
all
back.
for a season, come back, refresh. There it is. Let's go back again.
Yeah.
And it must be great to get back and then see your sister and
Yes.
and how that relationship's developed.
Yeah.
Because obviously it must have been so hard for her. How hard was it to leave that?
It was tough, but she was, because of her vulnerabilities. There's situations that allows her to be looked after around the clock. So I felt comfortable, and obviously my wife and her family are a really good support system as well. That check on her and stuff like that. We phone every time. But yeah, so yeah, it was tough, but I check in and make sure she's okay.
You know, we said 0.01% makes it to the NFL from within the States. I'd love someone to work out the odds of your journey.
It's probably less.
I
would have rather win the lottery, but if
sadly, you're not doing too badly on that one. But that is remarkable. Do you?
Powerball.
Yeah, and the rest. Have you stopped just to light a cigar and have a drink of choice and just think, okay, what a story, what a journey?
Yes and no.
You can't do that because you've got to stay.
Yeah, because it's such a short time. Like as athletes, it's such a short window, and the NFL.
But you've got to enjoy the moment as well, haven't you? You've got to recognise the journey that you're on while you're on it.
I don't know. I think I'm running away from something.
Okay.
So I think that's why I can't really relax.
Right.
You know, and I just don't feel like I within the league and within. I don't feel like I've got the recognition or compensation for what I'm worth.
Okay.
So I'm still knocking at the door to feel that or to get that.
We talk a lot about sports psychology on this show, actually. I mean, do you like to?
Of course.
Is that a big thing in the NFL? Because I imagine you've got any resource you want at any point.
Yeah.
Is that something you tap into?
It is, and I do tap into it. Initially, when I started or when I was recommended, I just wasn't in a place to open up and communicate, and even doing stuff like this and being able to talk about my life, I just wasn't able, because at the time I was just thrusted into the NFL, and I just hadn't had time to process it. And for me, that life, like I said, it's normal. I didn't see anything wrong with it until I vocalized it, and then everybody from the outside was like, oh, because I have friends that are still in the same situations. Hands are tied, can't get jobs, can't leave the country, can't, just because of just a similar situation.
How do they reconcile where you are now? Will you reconcile where
they're very supportive, extremely supportive. But obviously, I understand that they're going through their own individual situations. Yeah, like I tried to help, some of them with like solicitor fees and things like that, and trying to give them advice as to like what they could do in order to kind of better their situation. Like for me, it was just having the ability to leave the country and then look at what I've done with my life. Some people don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's utterly extraordinary. It really is.
I was going to ask you, obviously, talking about the psychological part. Obviously, there's lots done to unpack with Efe.
It's a lonely place being a punter.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Everyone loves you when you do things well.
Laces out.
That's what I kind of meant, was that because of in Efe's kind of journey, it's obviously very, very unique and very extraordinary. But obviously, you can see from a psychological point of view, there were lots of things to unpack and why you would be like that. From your point of view, as a performance person, with that element where you are alone, you are on your own, you're like, like Ray Finkel, if you fucking don't get it right,
Einhorn is Finkel.
Yeah. You're the only guy there, and you've got one job. Whereas, obviously other players, I know it's got their skill sets, but there's a lot of moving parts. You basically got to fucking nail it, otherwise you're no good.
Yeah, that was my struggle that I had coming into college, was not being in the mix. So being a fly half. As you know, the game's going, you're in it, whereas now you're sitting there and you can really think about it. And for me, if I think about it, I'm fucked.
You've got to have a lot of Sudoku on the sideline now, because you haven't got anything else to do, have you? I mean, you've got to be there.
If you, not that I had a few bets on NFL, but you can almost also
come in
sketchy. You can also plan from a certain point in the game how you expect the game to go. So you could almost go, well, I might end up having to punt this, or what. You can predict in your mind, because you'll understand the game so well, is when you're going to come into a role, and then you'll spend 2 minutes waiting to think about it before it actually comes to pass. So you just earphones on, music, and then when they give you the top, oh mate, you got to kick it, you just get on there.
Basically, yeah. I just sit in the sideline and support teammates, but just talk about random stuff that has got nothing to do with the game. So I can, because I'll be watching the game too, but I'm thinking, oh man, it's nice weather today, isn't it? You know?
Must be like, Scottish Hammer's so weird. It doesn't talk about anything about it in the game. What do you think of that play? Oh, did you know that a swallow can fly around the world? Can it, mate?
Is that an African swallow or European swallow? Wiggy brought that point out. So the final of the Premiership was on Saturday, and a guy called Freddie Burns dropped a sort of drop goal to win last 20 seconds. But then we were talking to Richard Wigglesworth, and he was on the sideline. He was like, he started talking about Freddie's social media because he didn't want to think about the next 20 seconds and the process of just catching the ball, making sure we got set, and then getting it out, running the clock down. Is that so? That's basically all you're doing.
Exactly, because in hindsight, when I've played at my best, just being a consistent punter and flipping the field and putting the ball inside the 10. I've had a completely clear mind. Not even thought about what I'm doing. I'm just going out there having fun, catching it and kicking it. But then the games where I've been inconsistent is because I've been out there thinking, okay, this next punt, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and for me that just doesn't work. And so I practice staying involved with the game, but switching off. Then as soon as third down comes, I look at Charlie Longsnapper, I go, nice knowing you, bro. And then we run out there. He gets a giggle, kind of liven up a little bit, and then just switch on for the 20 seconds I'm on there, get my job done, and come off the field, hopefully. So,
and then does someone tell? Because obviously, I think there's more to it. So more to punting than because obviously, depending on how far out you are, will depend on what type of punt you'll do, whether you're going to try and push a corner or whatever. So do you have someone who, if you're trying to stay disconnected from the game in sort of that way until it's the right time, does someone come and tell you situational, or are you always aware of the situation that you're in?
Always aware of the situation.
Okay.
Just in terms of not overthinking my job. Like if I go out there and I think about my leg swing and how I'm going to do this and how I'm going to do that, I'm going to fucking crumble. But if I just go out there and go, just catch this ball, Jamie, it's all going to work out.
Do you play with one cleat on and one like normal football boot on, or do you play with both football boots?
I used to do that in college because we played in some pretty bad grass sometimes, and I would slip and like Charlie Brown it a couple of times.
Really?
So I had one cleat with the thick studs in it and one soccer cleat.
Yeah, you say soccer now.
Just, I don't know where Alex is going to go. We talked about the money thing, right? And obviously,
Now we back.
This is what I want to know, because obviously over here, like I said, for the exposure of kind of watching Hard Knocks and everything else like that, and you kind of see the lure is kind of the financial, but obviously it's the ruthless nature of the fact that I could promise you this amount of money on this day, and then I could chop you the next day. Can you just clear up each one of you just kind of how it actually works? Because one of the things about the NFL is that you could work all the way there and still get cut and actually make nothing. Right. But what is the league minimum? Because there are certain things that you have to look after. Or I just made that up.
No, there is a minimum wage, isn't there?
Yeah,
there is.
For veterans and for rookies, they're different.
Yeah,
are they?
They are. Yeah. So I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, like Jamie said, there's veteran minimums and there's rookie minimums. Once you go into the league as a rookie, you have to give I think you have to give 3 or 4 years. 3 years. You have to give 3 years before you can become a free agent, and then you can kind of command whatever money based on your value, depending on like position and like what.
Okay.
Unless you're drafted, it's 4.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
Yeah. So I'll be considered an unrestricted. No, I'll be considered an undrafted person. Obviously, do you know what drafted is?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I'll be considered an undrafted person, and then once you become an unrestricted free agent, that's where you make your money. That's when you're able to kind of.
That's where you don't turn up to training camp.
Yeah. So have you both reached a free agent standard?
We both.
Oh, nice.
My first year of that, my first experience of that was last year. Before, yeah.
And then did Christmas come early, or was it like a little bit? Because just your story. So when you signed for Dallas, obviously Dallas Cowboys, probably the most, the 3 Super Bowls in 4 years.
Right. Boys
Will Be Boys book that I read. Have you ever read it? I read the book about it when the guys like driving motorbikes into restaurants and they're all like going crazy. They were obviously the original guy. The Dallas owner is obviously a bigger star as anybody. What was that like, walking and being offered $1.3 million for 3 years? Was that guaranteed, or was
that exactly? So that was 1.3 for 3 years only if you make the team.
Yeah.
And then there's also a salary for people on the practice squad which is different. And
is that below the league minimum? Then again,
that is can
so
be.
If you made it into the team, right, and you could obviously have a league minimum, and that would be fine.
Yeah.
If they offer me a contract, they could technically offer me 100 million, but guaranteed 500 grand, and that's all I get unless I hit all the other.
Unless you,
that's what why you need an agent, because then he's kind of you're the good cop, he's the bad cop,
right?
So he does the negotiating for you, so you don't get caught in that. Like, here's your $100 million contract, but we're only going to guarantee 500 of it and then cut you.
yeah, fine, okay. And what was that like? They going into that Dallas those days back in the day? Like, was it just mad?
It was mad, but it was okay because one, I didn't know anything about the sport, so there was these big superstars in the room like Des Bryant, Tony Romo, all these other people that I'm aware of now, but at the time they were just normal guys, and I was just like, this my first experience of leaving the country since I was 10, and I was just let's trying to survive really.
Did you as a, because I can imagine you, right, you said about the aggression, did you, but when in our rugby sort of stuff, we have a thing where obviously like the old heads are playing, right, they want to perform on the weekend, so last thing they want is a 6'6", 120 kg fucking angry guy at life coming in and folding them up like a deck chair and melting them. I mean, did you get that wrong?
So what kept me around, and I think what my value was, or my niche, was the fact that I was angry and I had a chip on my shoulder and I had a point to prove. I didn't know the game. I was still learning, and the only thing I had was effort. The only thing I had was my aggression. And I was at practice, I was a nightmare. I didn't care about your job or your life or whatever you got going on. In my eyes, you was a millionaire and you was rich, and I'm just trying to convince these coaches, like, I don't see your name on my paycheck, so I don't care. Like, I don't care.
That's a hard mind. Yeah, you got to people got to take your hat off to you for that mindset, because people get lost in that trap of trying to please the vet, which is hard because you don't want to piss people off too, but at the same time you want to make the fucking team, and if you don't show that stuff, then you're just going to be gone.
Exactly. And what did you do? Like take the studs out of their boots,
wind them down,
deflate the ball, yeah, shit like that. Like,
but then I was going to say, did you struggle with the X's and O's, as it were? Because obviously, coming from clearly you didn't really know much about American football going on. You're playing a position that's, I would imagine, quite intensive on knowing your X's and O's and changes of plays and how formation setups and everything else.
So what's funny is I actually started off as a tight end.
Okay.
And that was honestly the worst. It was, the learning curve was just so high. You know, I remember there was a play where Tony Romo was like, okay, ZYX, kill, da. And I'll go to the line and I'm like, okay, what am I doing? And then he'll so when he says kill, that means that there's another play after that you need to know because he's seen something that he doesn't like. So then he goes kill, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, what's the other play now? Snap, and then I get him killed, and then there's like, all right, you know what? You go play defense, see ball, get ball. And that was kind of an easier transition. So that's when I went to the D-line, and then...
You've made that sound very much like...
ball, get ball.
The water ball. So the centre snaps the ball and I try to tackle that guy. Unless he passes it to that guy, then I try to tackle that guy.
And that's really what it was for a while. I got my ass kicked a lot, but, you know, like I said, all I had was effort, and you can't really coach effort. Yeah. And then as time progressed and as I was exposed to more... Then I learned schemes and I learned positions.
But you're obviously hungry to learn at the same time.
Exactly.
We were talking before we started recording, actually, about the fact that you really missed rugby when you went over there because of the camaraderie. And that is something that's basically the basis of the pod and the experiences that these two have enjoyed. What is that relationship like in an NFL setup? Because we were talking about the very transactional nature of being a player. You never quite know where you're going and when. Is it harder, therefore, to make those bonds and the friendships and the brotherhood, or is that kind of it's still there regardless because of the nature of the sport?
It depends. If you get lucky and you're on a team that has that kind of bond, I would say like you guys on Buffalo had that, and it was really fun to be a part of for the 4 weeks. Sometimes, like you were saying. Some teams are celebrities playing football, right? Like off the field, they are celebrities. People know them all over the world. So sometimes maybe that can be hard to kind of come together because with rugby teams,
like they are.
Yeah.
You didn't want to say it,
But that's really interesting because we speak a lot about the fact that there is a sort of tall poppy syndrome in rugby. If you step outside the boundaries of the team, you get cut off at the knees. But in the NFL, those characters are celebrated, lauded, almost elevated higher as a result. They love individual superstars in their sport in the US.
Absolutely.
They do, yeah, for sure.
Is that quite difficult, sort of then, as a teammate of some of those players at times?
Me personally, whatever team I go on, I'm not afraid to make friends and have a good time and stuff. And I love the rugby atmosphere of just everybody's just the same guy doing the same thing, trying to achieve the same goal. So I've met some really good people. Like, it's very cliquey. Some teams like are very cliquey, you know. But you still meet solid guys that, you know, are rugby players, in my opinion, in disguise. Just good old boys that want to hang out, have a beer afterwards, and just do normal stuff, you know.
What is the best bit about the gig?
Say that again.
What's the best bit about the job?
The money. Not joking.
I knew you were going to say that, but you just never get anyone in rugby saying that, would you?
I mean, listen, I just think, imagine I was any good at NFL and I was loyal to cash. I think I would think I was better than everyone. I wouldn't talk to you lads.
You'd be a monster.
I would be an unstoppable monster, mate.
No, it was a joke, but it is. I think just everything it's afforded me personally. You know, like the being able to leave the country, being able to provide for my family. You know, being able to do cool stuff like this. You know, I don't take that for granted because I didn't come from that traditional pipeline of going to high school, college, and then knowing that you're going to be an NFL player. I came from, you know, and then I can see it for what it is, you know, and I know that there's another life after that as well. So it's just amazing to kind of go through this.
I don't know whether you asked this, but do you, obviously with the international sort of pathway program there is now, do you spend a bit of time if you see someone who's on that pathway, would you always go over and have a chat and see how they're finding it and offer any words of advice? Because obviously we've got Wadey who's tried to do it.
You were with Wadey, weren't you?
Yeah.
We both were.
Great lad. But that goes back to what Hask was bringing up about the money is, you know, what he was probably getting paid playing on the wing for Wasps. England weren't really playing him. He could go over and do the international program, get paid the same as what he was getting paid to play professional rugby and give it a chance of chasing that dream. And he must have thought that was close on that for his first touchdown, his second touchdown. But so how often do you get to see those guys? Do you know many of them? And
yeah, so we actually have a group chat. We actually have a WhatsApp group where every year everybody that's a part of that gets put in there. And then also, it's just not only the international program. There's also the academy. There's a lot of kids in there that we actively are involved with, which I personally check up on a lot of them and make sure that and give them advice. And like I said, because of my journey, I get a lot of messages on Instagram as well from Kidstar and Wales, Scotland, all that stuff, just asking how they're able to kind of get into American football because of the unconventional way that I've approached it.
I wonder as well, just kind of, you know, you were joking about kind of the money thing being alert. What is it like for you both as well? Imagine being part of a sport that leaves no stone unturned in the pursuit of getting the best out of the athletes. You know, so even, I mean, I remember when started playing the first few games at Wembley, NFL teams were doing it and seeing there's kind of, you know, a separate coach just for the coaches and for the support staff. I mean, Jamie, I'll start with you, just in terms of, you know, if you had a talent, I mean, how much better are you being made by that level of professionalism around you and the fact that you are left to be my belief is you're left to be an athlete and it's up to you, everything else is taken care of. That's certainly the image I have. Yeah,
well, with it being a billion-dollar organizations and stuff, the world is seriously your oyster when you're there. I mean, you're coming in at 6 a.m, you're getting training, you've got this spread of food, right? Morning, noon, and night. But it's supposed to be the best coaching staff you can be around. You can talk to anybody in that building, you'll be able to get your hands on or have special coaching or psychology people. They've got people in places everywhere in that building, even for off-campus life and stuff too. If say your wife or your kids are in trouble or something's going on, they'll take care of that. You know, they'll take care of everything you need. And then going out there and you just got to perform and just work harder and don't take it ever for granted. You know, and you should be all right.
Is there any moment where you've looked at that sort of level of professionalism? I remember when the first time I saw it, for example, was when somebody, you know, pours water and you don't even. Paul Warrior in your own mouth. There's a guy, rehydration guy.
Yeah.
Is there any moment where you looked, obviously, from your background going, wow, this is like the most insane level of service I've ever seen?
Yeah, it is. But I think America in general kind of operates on that level of like having service. And but I've been on a few teams, and I will say that it differs. You might have some coaches that have that hands-on approach, and their way of coaching it and system works for everybody. And then obviously everybody's at different stages of their career, and it is on you to kind of take ownership of your development. Maybe the younger guys might get a bit more help and a bit more hands-on, but then as you progress, it's more like, okay, you know your body now, you know your routine, you know your system. You need to be able to perform. Nobody cares what you do outside of that, but as soon as you're on that field, or as soon as you're in practice, you better do what you're supposed to do. And if you're making those decisions and eating good and all of that stuff, then and watching film, then you'll stay in that building. But if not, then they don't care, because it's a revolving door. They've got kids coming from college, they've got kids everywhere.
So if you don't toe the party line, you're not interested, you don't do your role, you're gone.
Yeah, you're gone.
I was going to say, because one of the myths about the NFL is basically if you went the traditional path, you do most of your work at high school and college in terms of athletically. You do all your development, and then once you're in the NFL, it's basically about making sure you don't get injured, right?
Right, exactly.
So you can train, you train as much as you want. You can. So then the vets, very, very, you hear some great stories about. I can't remember who it was. They just don't practice. They don't do anything, but they play, and that's fine.
Exactly.
Is that sort of how it is, or and then you do most of your work when you're away, because you're only doing a 18-week season really, plus then you add in the pre-season of whatever that is. So you're getting 5 months downtime, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And then we get 2.5 months.
Imagine having 5 months off.
I mean, I like to
We play 40 games a year. We have 4 weeks off.
I liked it back in the day, like the
And we
league.
get paid nothing.
I like the league's approach to special supplements. Oh, what are we taking there? Oh God, have a day off, right? James, you put on 30 kgs between the end of last season. Oh, that protein powder's going really well.
So do you embrace that? Are you always, because it's about not getting injured and being able to do your job. That is the main thing about the NFL. Is the sole purpose is you to play from week 1 to hopefully week 17.
At some point, and also everybody, we're all independent contractors, right? And everybody isn't treated the same, and that's what's different. So me and Jamie can play the same position. But say he's in his first year and I'm in my 10th year, I'm going to get a different level of treatment than he is, regardless. Or say he's a first-round draft pick and I'm a 7th-round free agent, he's going to get a different level of treatment. It's all about, your talent level and also the amount of money that's invested in you kind of dictates, because you have access to a lot of resources and servitude, but the way you're treated and the way you're valued is different.
You see that though on Hard Knocks. You see it when they get like a first round draft pick, or they get a new guy. Everyone's super excited, and when they don't deliver or they don't get their role, everyone's even doubly more stressed. Yeah, because
they don't turn up because they're holding out for a better contract.
Exactly.
But that's the American way as well with sports and stuff too, which I've never got my head around. Right, a first round draft pick is huge money wise and stuff, but at the end of the day, they're still young bucks in a big boy league, right? And expecting. I'm not saying they shouldn't be playing bad, but expecting them to be making these plays off the bat sometimes I think is really unnecessary pressure, right? But that's when you meet the guys that do it because they have that fuck it mindset and they just go and do it. But I can see why some of the first round draft picks might bust or fold, because you just got the spotlight on you constantly. And then that Sunday rolls around and you've been thinking about that for 4 months.
Yeah,
and then you don't do what you're supposed to do,
and then you get one chance, in it, it can be defined by that, because that's how. Because the thing with the NFL, which we liked, which we wanted to bring to rugby, was the fact that the spectacle. So obviously the fact the level you guys play at, in front of the crowds you play at the venues you play at, those huge moments, the hype, the media, the behind the scenes, the social, all the stuff that fans see every section of your kind of life within reason, and then. You got like a couple of chances before people are writing you off. Like this guy, I've seen it in some of the NBA, some of those guys like Lamar Ball and all those other guys, and they didn't really deliver. And then suddenly 1 season later they're traded to someone else, and then when they got the pressure off, they start playing better than they were. It's amazing to kind of see.
But also, you're coming from like college ball, which you can play high tempo, fast down college ball, and then you're going into a really slow because the NFL like to predict how games go. They'll play all their sets out, they'll chew clock, they'll do everything else, and if you're not used to that, then it must be, I don't know, but if you play, I don't know, I'm going to show my college knowledge. If you play someone like Oregon or something who generally play quite fast, I think.
Well,
Buckeyes.
College ball in general, I will say, is
fast
on steroids in terms of work rate. Like the college coaches, they don't give a fuck about your body.
Really?
Right.
That off-season training is the hardest off-season. I mean, you get massive from it and you get fast, but it is. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I'm just saying that it's college ball in terms of from college to the NFL. Injury prevention, like now you're here, you know what to do, take care of business, here's your resources. College ball is drill sergeant. You're here at 4:50 in the morning, you're going to run 3,210-yard sprints, then we're going to run bleachers, and then you're going to go in the squat, and then you're going to go to class all day, then you're going to come back for meetings, and then you're going to go and kick, and you're going to run routes, and then you're going to go to study from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m., and then do that all over again 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
But is that part? Have they just got into that as that's part of the make it or break it type thing? If you can get through that,
Get me a job at bingo instead of that. Race Foods or whatever it was.
I didn't like the money.
Can I ask you, have you both seen Any Given Sunday?
Favorite of. Fucking love that movie.
Is it as good off the pitch as any given Sunday would suggest? Is it reversing Lamborghinis into swimming pools and setting fire to mansions? And
I hear from
do they play Fire Pussy?
It's
a different level
from that. Is it as good off the pitch as it seems to be?
I from some of the old heads, I think before cell phones came out, it was pretty rowdy like that. From some of the stories I hear from it are fucking unbelievable.
Go on, just give us a semblance of.
Well, it's even some of the stuff that the night before.
Before games,
I typically read that Boys Will Be Boys thing. They talked about that the Dallas Cowboys used to have a house that they called the White House. They used to go to and they'd rent it round the corner, and everyone would be like, "Where are you going?" We're going to the White House, and they'd have a party, and then until one of the wives found it. And that's where they were all going, and it was all like utter carnage and stuff. Like the night before games are on the absolute smash. I mean, like even if you think about the NBA, watch that Michael Jordan, documentary Last Dance. He said the night before when he first started, everybody was partying, getting on it, and he just sit in his room and have a cigar to stay out the way. But the idea of me having a cigar before the game, it's mad. But you said sorry, I was interrupting you, but I just at Dallas Cowboy. I thought I don't want to put words in your mouth in case someone from the NFL goes, you can't put that in there,
right? But pretty rowdy.
Right.
Yeah, let's not get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Let's not get you in trouble today. That's not what we're about.
It is obviously showbiz as well. I mean, it is the elite sport.
It's entertainment.
Yeah. What is the most extraordinary scenario you have found yourself in outside of team environment, etc.? I mean, is it red carpets and any table in any restaurant? Is that on tap if you want it, or?
I'm pretty boring. I'm very grounded, and I think the rookie dinners.
Right.
That for me was like a real eye opener. Like every year, each position group goes out and has a dinner, and it's just the bill and the tabs. It's just I was like that threw me. I was like, wow, that you guys
50 grand tab.
Like you guys gonna spend this much money on food, just drinks and stuff.
You should come on a GB&R. Rookie, 50 grand will get you first to start.
50p.
Quick sandwich in a thing. Yeah. Guys, it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, can I just quickly ask you, Odell Beckham Jr., good guy? You come across him?
I was with him in Cleveland. Really, really, really nice guy.
Really?
Really kept...
So one of those superstars that still got his feet on the floor.
Yeah. And we were chatting stuff. It just... he was about his work, and we didn't... Specialists, we're a whole different breed, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Being from Scotland, you're a whole different breed.
So we hang out with the guys, but they're in watching so much film, meetings and stuff. They walk past us, and we're in the corner playing ping pong.
I'm telling you, I hate specialists, especially on hard days, and especially as a D lineman, I'm in the trenches and you're going against, you got to lift, you got to run, you got to watch film, it's constant movement, you got to recover, and I'll just walk past and I'll just see the specialists in the locker room just playing games, playing ping pong, like you said. It's just because they don't have to. Well, obviously, they train and the pressure's on, but they don't have to have that much of an intense schedule as other.
They just need to get it right.
They just need to get it exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But we'd only punt because you punt twice a week. You can't punt every day. You rip your hamstring. So I'm I'm standing there, face on, getting ready for it, and I'm like. Yep, not punting today.
I bet you can have a little golf cart, don't you? So just sit back on the golf cart.
But some things you told you can't do, like in the gym, you can't. Just in case you get injured through it. I mean, you must be quite limited to what you could do because you've got to just make sure that leg can swing, right?
Women pool aerobics with a couple of old ladies. Another busy day. I'm done. What time's that? 7:30. How have you been? Half an hour. See you, lads.
Unbelievable. Can I ask you, just obviously, Efe, you were saying you're not a massive rugby fan, but you obviously played a great deal.
Yeah.
Rugby in the US, MLR obviously beginning to grow, Rugby World Cup 2032. Do you see a bright future for your first love?
Yeah, 100%. Really heavily involved with rugby over there with the Cleveland Rovers. We tried to be hang out and stuff. I'm coaching little kids rugby over there.
You haven't got anything else to do at the moment, so it's obviously Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, when you're kicking.
Might as well do something.
Yeah.
But make sure it doesn't kick you with the hammer, mate, because your little body will go through the wall.
I keep hearing any given Sunday, the 6 inches in front of your face, which has taken on a very different meaning, given what we've been talking about.
Oh, God.
Sorry, you know what I mean.
Mate, don't disrespect him.
If they had a bit of trouble and went away and got big, you'd have a lot of trouble and you would get something big, but it wouldn't be what you wanted.
Something like being back in school.
All right, keep going. Keep going with the old rugby in the US.
No, it's certain places it's very popular. What I noticed is when I went and played out there, it's a lot of meatheads just wanting to kill each other. And the difference in technical rugby from being over here and understanding phase play and stuff and playing with some of the guys there, there was a lot of American football mindset in terms of this is what we're going to do phase 1. This is what we're going to do phase 2. I'm thinking, what the fuck? This is a flow game, trying to explain it. And I met some great guys there, but
there's a few professional coaches in rugby who do that.
Oh man, but it's if they took rugby as seriously or just half as seriously they did with the NFL, it would be stupid how good they'd be. The athletes that come out of high schools there and
are you seeing more athletes who don't cut it?
Yep.
In the NFL, drop into rugby.
And if they had an earlier mindset, if they were, say, playing in the off-season rugby at 6 years old or at 5 years old when we started, they would be unbelievable as a rugby player. But a lot of the guys don't have some of that mindset. And a lot of the Major League Rugby guys are guys that aren't even American.
Yeah.
Right? A couple of...
Phones is over there.
Chris Robshaw.
Yeah.
I wondered...
There's Kiwis, Aussies over there.
Before Alex wraps up, I just wanted to ask one last thing from me. If obviously you guys both are having fantastic careers, and if I just asked, you'd start with where do you want to get to? Like I kind of sense from you, there's a little bit of like unfinished business. You said in your own words, you don't feel like you've been valued.
Yeah.
You've obviously had a hell of a journey. Where is it you want to get to, and what do you want to achieve? Is your final thing?
Obviously, there's a number, obviously, and also just all the accolades, the Pro Bowl. Just be a household name, and also just bring American football here and just and create more opportunities here, and that would allow more people to kind of make it more streamlined for people to go over there. That's kind of where my mind is. I want to open a gym, open a facility, because over there it's just very sports orientated. I'll be watching, the night before games, I'll turn the TV on and I'll see 11-year-old kids playing baseball on TV. You just don't see that here, no. And I think that we just need more infrastructures and stuff like that. And I want to be a part of that in terms of American football and creating opportunities and just having that stream, to create that pipeline to go over there and have that. Because with rugby, I don't know how you get into rugby. It's probably through schools or academies or stuff like that. But I started playing American football at 21, and it welcomes all shapes, sizes, heights, speeds, and I just want to, and you need opportunities, and that's kind of where my mind's at.
Do you see yourself over there forevermore, or will you come back here?
I'll definitely come back here.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. London and the UK will definitely be home. Always home for me. Yeah.
What about you, Jamie?
Over there.
Really, you're there for good?
Yeah.
Traitor.
I really miss Scotch pies and freezing cold weather.
Jamie, what about you? Like in terms of your career, what's your sort of still feel unfinished business? Happy with how it's going, or
No, definitely unfinished business. I didn't like how it went down personally for me with Cleveland. I'm really excited to be in the Giants. I love my coach. I love that organization, and I just, for me, I'd like to play as long as I can. This is such an awesome opportunity that we have. So I try to take, and I do take as much advantage of it as possible. And in my position, you hear guys that play 20 years. You know, and my goal is to play as long as I can and make the money I can and set up family for the rest of their life. But then also, because then I'll be 31, technically retired, right? And I can go and do other things I want to do, like coach, start an academy like you're talking about over here, and maybe get some of the football players. See, a goalkeeper over here that can kick a football that far would be able to kick an American football probably pretty far too, and that's stateside scholarships right there. That, like, I wasn't going to go to university. I wasn't smart enough to go to university, but football and kicking a ball got me a 4-year degree, and then now I'm in the NFL. So that's my goal, is just to and be the best I can be for my team. I'd love to be Pro Bowl and stuff, but I want to be that guy where when I run out in the field, guys like, we're good. I'm going to put them in a corner or something like that.
Can we tidy up one last thing? You were going to ask this question. NFL and padding, rugby and not. It's the question every sort of sporting Norse wants to know.
Padding hurt for me. It hurts way more than. Wow. Yeah. Right. But I don't know.
No.
Have you played rugby?
I've never played rugby, but I will say I think that with padding and with helmets, you have a different level of reckless abandonment that you wouldn't have if I was playing. Because we play in shells and we play in, leading up to the game, we don't play in pads every day or practice in pads. So when we're in shells or when we just have the helmets, I'm not really trying to, the physicality and the mindset is different. It's more fitting up and, and we've even adopted the way rugby tackled, because it's just so violent and so physical, because, head next to the shoulder. So I think when you have pads on, there's just this recklessness of not giving a fuck about your body and just launching into someone.
And also because I've always said that NFL's way tougher. I tell you what, because of the multi-angle. Like in rugby, I've got that fear of thing, but I don't run around and someone comes from the side that I didn't even see.
You generally know where you're going to get hit from.
Imagine you throwing a ball, me going up here, turning my back, and him reading it.
I'm in open space.
6'6" coming at you like that off his feet, like, or running with his head in front. Right. You're just like, I'll be sick of myself as I got folded up. It'd be horrific. Do you know what I mean? So it's 100% way harder, and because everyone always says it. You just, even when I wore a scrum cap like that, the stupid photo, you still felt I gave myself an opportunity to put my head where it shouldn't be, and that gave confidence. Let alone a helmet. If I had a helmet on, it'd be like, that'd be it. I'd love to hit some of the guys back in the day with a helmet and pads on. Yeah. It would have been horrific.
Unbelievable. We have really, really enjoyed it. It's been a fascinating, two remarkable stories, but also two guys just living the dream. And long may it continue. I hope everything you're gunning for comes through. And thank you very, very much indeed for dropping in. We've actually got plans to go stateside at some point, haven't we? So we'd love to come and check in, keep up with the story, etc.
We're going to Washington and we're going to New York.
Yep.
It's easy
and when Washington plays New York, or when New York loses to Washington.
There we go. Battle lines drawn. Guys, good on you. Thank you so much for coming to see us. Good luck with everything that's to come, and we will follow very, very closely indeed. Don't forget as well, listeners and viewers, that the NFL is coming back to London later this year. We have got the Minnesota Vikings taking on the New Orleans Saints. That's on October the 2nd at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We've got New York Giants taking on Green Bay Packers. That's October the 9th, once again at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And the Denver Broncos, who are facing off against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's on October the 30th. And that one is taking place at Wembley Stadium. Thank you again, guys. Absolutely fantastic. We have been The Good, The Bad and The Rugby. We will see you again very soon. This show is produced by Sharakil Gallant. The Good, The Bad and The Rugby is a Folding Pocket production. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.